This is John Bunn, who was falsely convicted of murder for 27 years.
I'm an innocent man, Your Honor, and I have always been an innocent man.
Bunn was just 14 years old when he was taken into custody by NYPD Detective Louis Scarcella while he was residing in Brooklyn, New York. After serving 16 years in prison and 11 years on parole, Bunn continued to fight for his innocence. Eventually, though, his conviction was overturned due to Detective Scarcella misconduct and the fact that there wasn't even a reasonable suspicion to arrest Bunn in the first place.
I want y'all to know that y'all convicted and had a wrong man in prison.
And he is eventually freed after struggling to cleanse his name for 27 years.
I want to say thank you, Your Honor, because in 27 years, I've been fighting for my life.
Despite this, he spends a brief moment with the judge before leaving the courtroom. A lawsuit was launched by International ER against Detective Scarcella and the city of New York. This is Scott Nelson, who killed a nanny in Orlando, Florida, and is charged with first-degree murder.
So you committed the worst possible crime.
Nelson, who was fired from his painting job and served 25 years in prison for robbing a bank, recently got out of prison. He then decided to plot another crime. Nelson used a knife to break into a home where a nanny was working as a caregiver. He then abducted the woman, threw her in the trunk, and went to a nearby ATM to take out $200. After that, Nelson went to a far-off place and fatally stabbed her, leaving both her corpse and the car behind, where he was later detained.
You bought zip ties.
Yes, I did.
You bought duct tape.
That'd be correct.
You bought a knife.
I sure did. I bought that material because I had a plan in mind of how I was going to survive being thrown on the street again for what, the third or was it the fourth time by the government? And you know, you kick a dog enough times, they tend to bite back, and really, they just don't care anymore.
Nelson maintained that the fault lay with the government and eventually confesses to the crime.
Somebody was going to pay for how you've been treated.
That is very accurate.
Who killed Jennifer Fulford?
I did.
During the penalty phase, he made a statement and said this.
How has your mental health been affected by your previous incarceration?
I am a homicidal maniac.
Nelson eventually was found guilty of first-degree murder and given a life sentence. This is Alan McCarty, who was arrested. When Alan McCarty threatened to kill a judge at a child custody hearing, the judge ruled against him, and McCarty's children were taken away. McCarty's unpredictable behavior toward the judge persisted throughout his court appearances.
My daddy owns the building and I look like a idiot, huh? Brought your dress today, you little prick. You wanna take my kids from me and act like that? You and that Shut the up. I'm trying to think over here.
The sentence process begins now that McCarty has been found guilty of making the initial threats against the judge.
What a bunch of guys, you stupid piece of then also. You threatened my life, you you back room. Suck my No, I'm not standing. Stop resisting. I'm not resisting. I'm just not standing up. I'm not standing. I don't have to stand.
After being sent to a different room where he can view the court through a one-way glass, McCarty still causes trouble. McCarty received a 20-year jail sentence. In addition, the judge sentenced him to an extra 10 days for his antics in court. This is Markeith Loyd, who was found guilty of killing a police officer in Orlando, Florida.
I'm creating a relationship, but somehow I have absolutely don't know nothing about. And they frame me.
After killing his ex-girlfriend, who was expecting his kid, a month later, Loyd was already on the run from the law. Not long after, you can see him entering a Walmart. When Lieutenant Deborah Clayton arrives, you can see her get a cart and enter. They meet paths outside the store every several minutes. After learning of the murder, Lieutenant Clayton was alerted and attempted to intervene and apprehend Loyd. However, as a shootout broke out, Lieutenant Clayton was shot 4 times and died as a result. When Louis ran away once more, it resulted in a 9-day manhunt. When he was finally apprehended, he attempted to flee and lost his left eye in the altercation. When Loyd testified in court, it was said that he suspected everyone was trying to kill him.
And I was just reacting, Mary. I was just reacting. Even when they opened the door, I just reacted. I fired 2 shots, I just reacted.
The jury then found him guilty.
It really hurts deep down inside.
This is Lieutenant's sister giving a victim impact statement.
She stood in the place as my mother when I didn't have one. I truly miss my sister. I truly miss her.
Loyd finds out at this point that the jury has unanimously recommended the death penalty.
We, the jury, unanimously find that the defendant, Markeith Loyd, should be sentenced to death.
Loyd seems to mouth something out to the public a few moments later. Loyd has an outburst.
You've been trying to kill me. People are trying to frame me for murder.
All right, why don't we remove Mr. Loyd from the courtroom?
Loyd was eventually sentenced to death in the courtroom after the judge sided with the jury. He is currently being held in custody, awaiting his execution. This is Darrell Brooks, who was found guilty of driving his SUV into a Christmas parade in Waukesha, Wisconsin, killing 6 people and injuring numerous others. It is claimed that during his careless driving, he reached speeds of over 30 miles per hour, and the prosecution contended that his driving rampage was deliberate.
He plowed through 68 different people. He kept going until he got to the end, and there was no more bodies to hit. It was intentional.
Following his apprehension and subsequent charges, Brooks chose to represent himself in court.
If you are allowed to represent yourself in this case, sir, you will not have attorneys assisting you. They're gone from this case. Do you understand that?
I think I will probably be better served representing myself.
As Brooks began to giggle during a witness evidence, it was evident where his true nature lay. Throughout the trial, Brooks was removed several times due to his frequent interruptions and outbursts.
He told Erica that he was gonna find her and he was gonna kill her.
Brooks lashes out over the district attorney's pronunciation of the term defendant when he returns to the courtroom.
I would like to provide the defendant and the court.
So that had to be said. The defendant. I got one ear that work and I heard that.
This is to benefit you,
so it's
you
not.
understand
Ain't none of
your
this to benefit me.
Because he is now obviously irritated, Brooks chooses to have a stare down with the judge.
I need to take a break. This man right now is having a stare down with me. It's very disrespectful. He pounded his fist. Frankly, it makes me scared.
The jury quickly issued a guilty verdict on all 76 counts brought against Brooks, and he was sentenced to 6 life terms plus an additional more than 700 years in prison. This is Mikel Brady, the inmate who tried to break out of Pasco Tank Correctional Institution in North Carolina, killing 4 prison staff members in the process.
I stabbed him like 4 to 8 times. I hit Jeffrey Howe until he stopped moving. I don't know how many times I hit him with it.
After shooting at a state trooper in North Carolina, Brady was sentenced to 24 years in prison for attempted murder. 4 years into his term, Brady and 3 other prisoners savagely murdered 4 prison staff members with hammers and scissors.
That man, Mikel Brady, beat that man, George Midget, like he was trying to bust concrete.
Brady attempted to jump a fence after that, but was apprehended at gunpoint.
It was like a bloodbath. I stepped in between Jeffrey and Wendy, and I slid trying to get in because the whole elevator floor was nothing but blood.
Prosecutors contended during the trial that Bridge was the mastermind behind the attack and showed no regret for the deaths.
We know who originated the plan. We know who led the plan.
After being found guilty, Mr. Brady now stands during his sentence.
I'm up here to tell the truth. You can ask me anything you want. I'm gonna tell the truth. Whether it hurts me, whether it helps me, I don't care about that.
You don't believe you're crazy, do you?
No, I don't think I'm crazy, no.
And you do know the difference between right and wrong?
Yes.
So you know murder is wrong?
Murder is a different name for a death, but yes.
Your freedom meant more than their lives.
Yes.
Now the judge reads out the jury's recommendation.
Jury unanimously recommending that the defendant be sentenced to...
Brady appears utterly dispassionate, and the judge ultimately decides to execute him. He is currently being held in a prison in Colorado, awaiting the death penalty. This is Franklyn Williams, a man convicted of several felonies in Cleveland, Ohio, including armed robberies and eluding law enforcement.
And on the document,
Again, I'm going to interrupt. Mr. Williams, listen to me. I'm going to gag you in 1 second.
At his sentence, Williams was found guilty after committing 3 armed robberies and leading the police on a high-speed chase. The judge gave Williams over a dozen warnings, but Williams would not stop talking.
But you not letting me tell
That
you
means
what's
zip it right now.
You trying to?
Does that make sense?
No, it doesn't. That's a violation of the HIPAA law, Judge.
Here we go.
As a result, the judge gave the order to tape Williams' mouth shut.
If you spit on, attempt to bite, or injure any of my deputies, you're gonna have a bad day.
That's what it is.
Williams has something to tell the judge and the cameras during a later court appearance.
Freedom of speech, no duct tape, with the hashtag.
Aside from all the interruptions, the judge can hand down Williams' sentence.
You faced a potential maximum consecutive sentence of 134 years. I ordered a 24-year sentence.
The judge, who had originally sentenced Williams to 24 years in prison, eventually apologized for the duct tape and overturned the verdict. He then selected a new judge, who gave Williams a 33-year prison term. This is Martez Abram, who was found guilty on 2 counts of murder in connection with the deaths of 2 Walmart employees in South Haven, Mississippi. After he was found to have a knife on him while working at Walmart, Abram was suspended. The day he was reinstated, he returned to the store armed with several firearms and opened fire, murdering store managers Anthony Brown and Brandon Gales.
He was laying on the ground with his eyes open, and I ran up to him and I looked at him. I said, "Anthony, honey, please say KC one more time."
He shot a cop who survived due to his bulletproof vest.
Once I got out of my vehicle, I heard gunshots and I felt the pressure of the bullet hit my back.
After being detained on the spot, Abram now confesses to all of his misdeeds in court.
Mr. Gale is on the floor going down at this point, isn't he?
Yes.
Okay, and that's you shooting him, right?
Yes.
Look at the screen, sir.
Yes.
That's you shooting him?
Yes.
And you admit that you shot him in cold blood?
Yes.
You shot him again, didn't you?
Yes.
After that, you went back to the toilet paper aisle, didn't you?
Yes.
This is one of the victim's wife delivering a victim impact statement.
You took Anthony from me on the exact day, 20 years earlier, that we had our first date.
And the judge will now decide Abram's destiny at this point.
In count 1, I will sentence you to death. Count 2, you will be sentenced to death. In count 3, you will be sentenced to life in the penitentiary.
As hearing he would be given the death punishment, Abram remains mute.